Welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast, the photo imaging industry's leading news source. Here's your host, Gary Peugeot. The Dead Pixel Society podcast is brought to you by Mediaclip, Advertech Printing, and Independent Photo Imagers.
Hello again and welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. I'm your host, Gary Peugeot, and today we're joined by Katie Brinkley with Next Step Social. She's an author, a podcast host, and a marketing guru coming to us from Denver, Colorado. Hi, Katie. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic. How are you?
Good. So you've been doing this social media stuff for a while, but it was sort of a impromptu or unplanned experience getting into that. So how did that happen?
Yeah, so I started back in the days of MySpace by helping bands with their MySpace pages.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, I know. Back then, social media as a job, like that was just, who would want to pay anybody to be on social media? That's a joke. And so I actually landed my dream job right out of college, and I was the post-game reporter for the Rockies and the Broncos here in Denver at 850 KOA. Yeah, and it was awesome. I loved what I did. And then this thing called SiriusXM came out, and everyone in the radio industry panicked. And so when SiriusXM came out, that's when I moved into marketing, and I was the marketing manager for the Rockies TV station. And in addition to doing traffic buys and media buys and traditional marketing, I was also tasked with doing the social media marketing. And that was my favorite part of my job. And I absolutely loved what I did. Mm-hmm. And then, unfortunately, my position was moved to Atlanta. And I'm a Colorado gal. I've got my shirt saying the mountain always. I got my mountain tattoo. I'm a Colorado gal. I can't imagine ever leaving here. And so I chose to take the severance package, and I started my own business. And that was about a decade ago now, and absolutely love what I do. We post on social media for businesses and create content for them. We edit podcasts. I love going into work every day.
So did you have a broadcast background in college? Is that where you got into? So was it broadcast and marketing, or was it just I'm going to be.
So I was a journalism major, and
you were talent.
Yeah. And so when I worked at the radio station in college, part of my job duty was to get bands to send us their music for free. And now I'm really dating myself, but we would write handwritten letters and put them in the mail, asking people to send us their CDs. I know, man. Holy cow, I'm old. I know. I thought, well, man, this is a giant time suck. There has to be a better way. And that's where I went all in on MySpace and started connecting with bands and just saying like, hey, we just send us your CDs. So they were in charge of all of it, but I was just doing it all electronically. But that's when I quickly realized how powerful of a tool social media could be. And like I said, I just kind of fell in love with it from there, and always found ways to learn different strategies and analytics and data and how to make it work for me.
You're freshly laid off. You have a severance package. Did you have any clients lined up, or what was the beginning of the business as a business as opposed to a side hustle?
Yeah. So when I was laid off, I then quickly found out that I was pregnant. So I was like, well, this is bad timing. I was like, well, who's going to want to hire me? And then me say like, okay, well, by the way, I'm going to need to take, maternity leave. So I had a great boss, and she and I were talking, and I was kind of like saying like, I don't know what to do. What's next? And she said, well, Katie, you're so good at social media. I would love it if you found a job where social media was all that you did. I was like, well, let's see what I can do. And I went out on Upwork and got my first 2 clients, and 2 clients turned into 3 and then turned into 4. And soon I was like, man, I'm making more money than I was at the TV station.
Which was that hard to do, probably.
Right. Yeah. It is not that glamorous in the radio
TV
and television world.
Is not the
No. But I started making more money, and I was like, maybe I'm onto something here. And then I hired my first employee. And then I hired my second, and before you know it, now I have a team of 11, and yeah, it's just grown from there. But it started as, me with my laptop working between, nap times and on weekends, and it just grew.
Now, were these your nap times or the baby's nap times?
Yeah, I know, right? I wish my now 10-year-old,
Mhm.
she was a terrible sleeper. She did not sleep through the night until she was 5. So I mean,
Mhm.
I'm very good at taking naps.
So it sounds to me like you're really good at budgeting your time. So let's talk about time and efficiency because that's sort of your thing. And the reason why I wanted to have you on was talking about, if you're a small business owner, you're a photo retailer, you're a camera store, you're a photo lab, your day-to-day business is not doing social media. And you may or may not have the resources or the desire to hire a Katie. So you've got some strategies to efficiently manage your time to have effective social media without making it your full-time job. So what's like step number one?
Most people are business owners first,
Mhm.
including me. And even though I have a social media agency, it does not mean that I love to be on social media every day,
Right.
right? I love to get new business. I love to meet new people, but just going out there and doing some trending dance routine on TikTok, that sounds like my nightmare. Um,
I knew I
really.
wanted to have you on for a reason.
So I wanted to look at my own social media and be like, man, how am I supposed to get more clients if I don't want to be on social media so much? Because I'm on it for all my clients all the time.
Right.
And honestly, the last thing we need is more content,
Right.
right? There's over 75 million pieces of content posted on Instagram every day.
Right. That's
That's a
just
lot of
Instagram.
content.
And that's just Instagram.
Yeah. And so if there's that much content being published, like how are you going to stand out? We don't need more of it.
Right.
We just need better.
Hmm.
So I started looking at all of these social media platforms and decided what posts are doing the best on each platform.
Mm.
Which ones actually get more reach? Which posts get the most likes, the most engagement? Which ones are the best at getting people to get off of social media?
Mm.
And when I looked at all the data behind it, I found out, well, I don't need to post so much. What if I just posted the way that the platforms wanted me to? And I just created better content
Mm.
and everything changed. And that's when the 4-post strategy came to life. I wrote about it in my book, The Social Shift. And it's designed so that you can show up on fewer social media platforms and get more reach, more impressions, and most importantly, more business.
Yeah.
And it's by creating better content.
So what are the two or three things that make content quote unquote better? Because there's different objectives, right? There's,
Yeah.
some people just want brand awareness, right? I just want people to be aware of things. Maybe click-throughs aren't great. But let's assume, for example, that we're talking about someone who has their measurement is going to be, I need people to click on this to get to my website to either look at something or maybe even order something. So,
hmm
so what would be an example of a tactic you could use to fulfill that?
Yeah, and I think that the first thing that you need to look at is who is connected with you and following you on all these platforms.
Hmm.
Which ones are actually working for you?
Hmm.
So for me, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Right.
LinkedIn, I get a lot of agency work
Yep.
for my business. And then on Facebook, I get a lot of my coaching clients
Hmm.
from there. So those are my two highest ticket offers. Now, Instagram is actually where I have the largest audience. I think I have like 8,000 followers there. Um, but I don't really post there anymore. I've kind of all but abandoned it.
Oh, really?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, for the
because
business side, do you have a personal Instagram that's sort of like on the side, or do you not even do that for personal?
no,
Wow.
no. Time is money, man. I mean, and
I
this
get
is
it.
the thing that you need to keep in mind is that these platforms want you to spend time on their app.
Right.
And if you're, I get it. There's schedulers out there. Metricool is my favorite scheduler. You can just tap a button and it can go everywhere. I get it. But being everywhere is not being smart. What if you could post just once a week and have better engagement and better reach than if you just posted a bunch of boring content everywhere, a bunch of white noise.
Or you're
Um,
copying somebody else's trend, which again
yeah,
helps the app and feeds that, but it doesn't really make you stand out.
yeah, exactly.
You know?
So I think that it just comes down to where are you seeing the best ROI? And for me, it was on LinkedIn and Facebook. And so what I do is I have the 4-post strategy there and I have the end goal in mind.
Mhm.
So essentially, what are you looking for this month.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe in the month of May, you're doing a sale, like a end of the year sale or end of the spring season or end of
Right.
summer sale.
Yep.
I don't know, end of school sale. You want to try and get as many people into your business as possible.
Right.
So if you have enough people that are saying, okay, well, that's my end goal.
Mm-hmm.
Who follows me on social media? Let's say you're looking at your audience and you notice on LinkedIn, you have a lot of business professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they care about an end of the school sale? How can you reposition this so that it's going to appeal to them? Let's say on Facebook, you have a lot of people a lot of parents that follow
Yep.
you. How can you position this for them? And when you write your content specifically for your target audience, it helps you stand out. Like, oh, they're talking directly to me.
Right.
And if you just say end of the season sale, that's fine. But what if you could say, get your passport photos half off?
Right.
Well, passport photo, we go, okay, cool. Because this at our end of the season, end of the school year sale,
Right.
because a lot of people are probably going to be traveling.
Right.
So think about what it is, who your target audience is on each of these platforms and why they would care about what it is that you have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're creating content specifically for your audience,
Mm-hmm.
it makes it much easier for them to raise their hand and say yes.
Right. So let's assume though, maybe someone doesn't know their audience really. How do you look at that? Like specifically, how do you look at your LinkedIn audience without saying, hey, these are CEOs? I mean, can you do that without, for example, paying? Because a lot of these platforms obviously want you to pay, or do you have to pay to get to that?
Luckily, all these platforms, you do not need to pay. You can go in and look at it. If you're a LinkedIn creator account, a Facebook creator account, that's all free. It's just changing a toggle in your settings. You get to see all of the data. And then if you're also a business page, you get to see all that data. Again, I mentioned Metricool earlier. That's a all-in-one platform that you can look at and see all the data. So that is an added cost. But I think that that's one of the things where if you're not looking at your data at least quarterly, that's where you're missing your biggest opportunity because you don't know who you're talking to. And when you don't know who you're talking to, then honestly, you're talking to no one.
So let's talk a little bit about Facebook specifically, because you always hear things about, it's dying, it's dead, TikTok where it's at or whatever. But how do you evaluate a platform as being appropriate for your audience? Because there may be businesses where TikTok is great, right? It may deliver for you. So what are some of the things people look at when they evaluate a platform?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Marketing is a puzzle. You can either give into the confusion or learn to love the solve. On the Axiom's Real Talk About Marketing podcast, guests like Aaron Schaefer of GM share how to manage challenges.
Make sure that you're not fixed in terms of what you're thinking about. The team's going to change, and the way teams operate are going to change. COVID was a great example of that. The industry is going to change. Are cookies going away or not? That was another great example of that. And so how do you continue to evolve as the space evolves?
Guests from HP, The Trade Desk, and Databricks share thoughts on today's marketing landscape. Find Real Talk About Marketing on YouTube, Axiom.com, or wherever you hear podcasts.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of, your audience, Gary, it probably has a business page.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. I think everyone should have a business page just so that strangers on the internet know that you're a real business. But this is the thing. Unless you're running ads, you're not going to see very good results from your business page.
Right.
It's just, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. If you have 1,000 followers on your business page, you're only going to be seen between 1% and 3%.
Right.
That sucks.
Yeah, it's not a great return.
That's why it's really important to have somebody that's willing to be the face of your business.
Okay.
I recommend having the COO, CMO, maybe a CEO, founder, be that face of the business. You can still then reshare everything to the company page, but personal pages get way more reach.
Okay.
And you can still set yourself up as a creator so you can see all that data and analytics. So I think that if you have a Facebook page, look at your staff, look at your team and say, who can we position as being the quote unquote influencer of our business? And let's push all of our content through them first.
What would it make sense if you've got different parts of your business? Maybe you have different creators for those businesses. So, for example, let's say you've got a camera store and they've got a rental counter, right? They rent cameras, and then they also have a different place where they sell cameras and different parts where they print pictures. Would it make sense
Yeah.
to have someone each of those areas, or putting it all in one basket with one person?
Yeah, I think, I'm the face for my business,
Right.
And I'm the CEO. There's 11 of us here, but I go out and do the speaking. I wrote the book. I had the podcast. This is what I spend majority of my time doing, is having conversations. And this is where I think that as its CEO, it makes a lot of sense to have the CEO be that face.
So have the one person, I've seen it, and we talked about this before we started recording, that, you've had people who are reluctant to do that in the industry because they're concerned that if they tap their camera guru to be the face, and then the face leaves, the face of the company leaves. So you're saying it should be somebody in management, even if they're not comfortable doing it. That's the other challenge, right? It's kind of a stereotype that a lot of the people in the my audience in retail specifically are, older people. They're not young and hip. Now there are young and hip people coming in, but for the most part, there's a lot of gray hair in the industry. So should they just play into the awkwardness, or what's the story there?
No, I mean, not everyone needs to, be dancing on TikTok.
Right.
I'm not on
I know.
video. I mean, that's why I have a podcast. It's because I feel way more comfortable being behind my camera off. A lot of people still read. I know, shocker, right? But a lot of people still read. AI is changing the game. There's AI tools out there where you can make videos and short form videos and long form videos with AI so that you can still show up even if you are a little camera shy.
You've got 4-post strategy. You've mentioned that a couple times. Could you kind of go over that briefly? What that is, because I think that's something that, when I was perusing you as a potential guest, that was one of the things I think that was, hey, that's manageable.
Well, yeah. And it doesn't need to be, it can be 4 posts a week, 4 posts a day. I mean, if you're crazy, but I mean, for me, I post 3 times a week, but I do this 4-post strategy for it.
Okay.
It's designed, like I said, so that after looking at all the data of all the platforms, creating the content that works within the algorithm that's going to help you get the most reach and the most engagement. So the 4-post strategy is designed to where you really are reverse engineering what you want people to do. So we have this podcast on Dead Pixel Society with Gary and guest Katie Brinkley, and you want people to listen to the show. Right. So we'll just use that as the example.
Right.
And the call to action at the end of the week is going to be listen to the show.
Right.
The very first post is the awareness post. And this is where you are making people problem aware, and also you're getting the most awareness, brand awareness. So you're using the algorithm to get the most reach. So what does that mean? Okay, so on Facebook, right now, the posts that are getting the most reach in the algorithm are those just plain old one sentence on a different colored background.
Right.
And with that, you'll do a bold statement, ask a question, maybe share a statistic. And maybe if you're promoting this one on Facebook, you could say 92% of people post 8 times a week on Facebook. How many times do you post? That's it.
Right.
You're asking a question. People are going to engage with it, comment. You're making people aware of that there's a lot of posting happening. It's also going to get pushed out into the algorithm more.
Okay.
Everyone that engages with that post is going to see your next post. So you've told the algorithm, these people are interested in this content. LinkedIn, maybe you share a LinkedIn poll. Instagram, maybe you do a reel. So all these platforms have different ways of getting the most awareness for your posts.
So it's almost like a teaser,
Yes.
So let's say, for example, I want my podcast to be successful. I've done 200 and some episodes, but we're not very successful. We want to promote this, and it comes out Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern time. It's like clockwork, never misses. So you're saying maybe Monday or Tuesday, I do hey, Katie's coming up, or some sort of...
Nope, not even. No, that what I just said about
Okay.
Share a weird statistic. Share a bold statement. You don't need to post on social media so much.
Okay.
You know,
Right.
posting more than once a week on social media is for losers. I don't know, something stupid. Something that's going to make people stop the scroll and say, "What is happening here?
Okay.
What is he talking about? I have opinions on this.
Okay.
I want to chime in."
Okay. So I posted that on Monday or Tuesday.
Monday.
And then what's the next
Yeah.
step?
The next post is going to be your elaboration post.
Mhm.
So this is where you step into the spotlight as the go-to expert. On LinkedIn, maybe it's a LinkedIn newsletter.
Mhm.
On Instagram, maybe it's a carousel post. On Facebook, maybe it's a long caption. And it's going to be elaborating on the problem that you made people aware of.
Right.
This is if you have a podcast like you do, you could say, maybe you just run it through a tool like CapShow
Mhm.
and say, you know, like the 4 reasons why posting more than 4 times a week on social media is killing your social media strategy
Mhm.
as a
Okay.
business owner. And then you can go in and you're just getting the tips from what we talked about on
Right.
today's show.
So it's almost you do it before it drops, not after it drops.
Yes.
So let's twist this a little bit away. Let's take it out of helping Gary run his business better and get into the audience. So if someone's having an event that you want to make people aware of, let's say it's a photo walk or
Mm-hmm.
class or something like that, and that's on Saturday. So you're saying on Monday or Tuesday, you post something like 90% of people get the settings on their camera wrong. And then that's
Yeah.
the engagement. And then
Yep.
maybe you start teasing through the cap show reel or what have you. And you start teasing the specifics on the photo walk.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. And you're just getting into the specifics. You're elaborating on the topic that you just were making people problem aware of.
Okay. Awesome. So then that's
So
2.
now
That's
that's
2.
2. And not once did I mention that we have the photo thing this weekend event.
Right.
Not once did I mention that we have a podcast episode. I'm just showing up. I'm creating conversation. I'm saying like, hey, this is, you know, how smart I am. Look at you learned something. Here's the value.
Yeah.
The third post should be your favorite. It's called the community post. And this is the post that allows you to share you. Like this is what social media was made for.
Mhm.
Okay, it was to connect with people, to share your story, to share some stuff about you. So this could be a great spot for a client testimonial. It could be a story about how Gary, you know, you've been trying to grow your show and you've been posting all these years and, you know, you have all these shorts, you have all this stuff going on and, you know, really social media wasn't moving the needle for growing your show.
Right.
And you were frustrated. And it actually wasn't until you kind of threw all of the materials you had into the fire and said, I'm just going to start fresh. I'm going to start new and I'm going to start posting less. And I'm only going to post on Facebook.
Right.
And everything changed when you did this 4-post strategy. And now you have more downloads. Now you have this. You're sharing your story and people can say, oh man, so Gary's already done this. Of course I trust him. That's so cool.
Right. Okay.
Or a client story, you know, like, oh, well, I helped so-and-so do this.
So in the context of, you know, my audience, it would be something like you maybe share somebody who's been on a previous photo walk and maybe they talked about how much they learned.
Exactly.
Okay. So you want to touch on the benefit of whatever it is you're talking about in an authentic, real way, not just marketing speak.
Totally. And this can be the same post on all the platforms.
Sure.
Like this is a true social media right here. This is you talking about you, sharing your story and saying like, look, I've been there either by helping a client with this problem or I've overcome this problem myself. And this is how I benefited from it.
So that's 3.
And if you notice, we still never mentioned that you have a podcast.
Right, exactly.
So the 4th post is the action post. And this is where you are asking people to leave social media to go one step further with you.
Right.
To listen to your show, to sign up for your event, to buy your thing. This is the post where you're asking people to do that. And by this time, you have the right people that are like, oh, how cool. You actually had an expert that comes on and talks all about how to post less on your podcast. Of course I want to listen to that, Gary. That sounds amazing.
Right.
Sign me up.
Right. And what you're saying is you're kind of playing into the biases of the platform because that's what they want. right? They're
Yes.
seeing a more engaged post. They're not just seeing posts that are out there and getting no engagement, which is the problem that you're seeing with people who post 100
Yeah.
times a week, right? They're posting a lot, but there's no engagement. So probably the platform's almost penalizing them in that regard.
And well, and then too, like if you're asking people to go to an outside link, you're asking people to leave that social media platform. They don't want people to leave their platform. They want them to stay on Facebook. They want them to stay on Instagram as long as possible.
Sure.
So this way, you've already been showing up. You have the right people that are raising their hands, that are engaging with your posts, that are seeing it and saying, yeah, actually, I'd love to have more information.
Okay, because I mean, I know when you do, like, for example, we'll take Facebook because it's easy. There is a way to, if you're creating Facebook posts and ads, you can say, what do you want people to do? And it says, go visit the website. So there.
Yeah. This is all organic that I'm
Right.
talking about.
Yeah. But I'm saying
Yeah.
is maybe, I guess at that point they're kind of okay with it. I don't think they're going to penalize you, but they probably want you to go to your Facebook business page, not your person, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really where they want you to live. So you're saying like we talked a little bit earlier about like the number of platforms that you can get on or whatever. But there's always new ones popping up. Is there a value in just experimenting occasionally with these, or are you just saying, hey, no, just stick with what works?
I mean, Clubhouse was great for me during the pandemic.
Mhm.
That was like that audio. It was basically the podcast platform.
Whatever
But I
happened
mean,
to Clubhouse? Is it even still around?
it's still around.
Is it?
But I mean, yeah, I'm not on it anymore. And I had, I think, over 100,000 followers.
Right.
But I think that, I mean, like there's Blue Sky, which is, that decentralized kind of Twitter. There's Skylight, which is kind of the decentralized TikTok. There's always new platforms coming. Threads isn't going to go anywhere anytime soon because Mark Zuckerberg's backing it. So I think, you don't need to be everywhere.
Right.
Focus in on the ones that make the most sense for you and your business and the ones where you can actually create content consistently on.
Yeah.
That's going to move the needle for you.
Because I think that's one of the things people don't really understand is just how big the internet is for a lot of these things. And there are a lot of these kind of pocket niche communities, right? I mean, even when you get out of Reddit is a social community in a way. And you can be successful in that world. And, people who have huge followings on Reddit probably don't even have a Facebook account.
Yeah.
How long should it take before someone starts seeing results with this? Because this is, let's say, if you're building something organically, a social following, whatever, you're not going to see results, right away. I mean, you may see improved results.
I'd say within the first month, you'll be able to see results.
Okay. So that quickly. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think that, and I've done some trainings for different communities on this. And one of the coolest things was seeing like some of the shared screenshots and they've gotten, 250% increase in engagements in the first, 2 weeks.
Right.
1,000% increase in, impressions in the first few weeks. So it's a strategy that works. It really is. It's an intentional strategy.
Right.
Knowing exactly, this is what I want to have happen. This is who this is for. How am I going to get there?
Right. So where does YouTube fit into this, or streaming, services, right? Because a lot of people use it to feed a social platform. Is it a separate thing, or can you use YouTube the same way? Because a lot of my audience have pretty large YouTube channels. They got a lot of content there, but but it's more of a library as opposed to a social network.
Yeah, I think that if you are creating any sort of video content or podcast content, anything like that, you should be on YouTube. I mean, Google owns it. And right now, like ChatGPT is like changing the game. But I mean, like right now, Google is king. Like there's been times even in ChatGPT where I've asked it a question and a YouTube video is given as a reference for it. So, I mean, I think YouTube, it kind of all the social platforms, having some sort of a YouTube presence is essential.
Cool. Where can people go for more information on your 4-step process? I'm not going to call it 4 posts. It's more of a 4-step process, really.
Yeah.
To improve their social and get more information about you and listen to your podcast that's out there.
Yeah. Well, if you like this podcast, which I'm sure you do because you tune in to Gary every week, I also have a podcast. It's called Rocky Mountain Marketing. And then where I talked about digital strategies. I have my book, The Social Shift. And then if you want to connect more, you can go to katiebrinkley.live/podcast newsletter, and you get notifications every time that the podcast drops.
Nice. Well, great, Katie. It's great to talk to you. I learned a lot. I got a lot of work to do now, but not too much work. But you've given me a checklist of things to do, and I'm sure my listeners do, so I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. Read more great stories and sign up for the newsletter at www.thedeadpixelssociety.com.